Hello, my name is Case Lopez, and I am the developer for Legendary with Upper Deck. I'm here with the game designer for Game of Thrones Legendary, Rob Heinsoo. Uh, and how you doing?
I'm doing really well. Good. And I'm really psyched the game's about to come out. So,
Yeah. What is your creative process when doing something like Game of Thrones Legendary? It's the scope of something that's a little different for what's
okay,
normally addressed for this type of game.
sure. I think there's two answers to that. One is what my usual design process is, like when I'm starting a project, especially. And the other is specifically how I handled Game of Thrones. So the 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 general process, amusingly enough, is that I do design work. I don't know if people can see, but in notebooks.
Oh,
Oh, there, I'm in and out. Ah, okay. Yeah, so in notebooks, writing is a lot of times the place where I generate the most new ideas, whereas when I'm sitting at a computer, it's almost more like typing and sort of implementing things that I've already sort of thought up, and and finding new ideas also, but really to get things started, I'm a handwriter. Um, and with Game of Thrones, it was interesting because you folks approached me asking if I was interested in doing it. I had done the earlier
hmm.
in Big Trouble in Little China um, game, and at first I thought about it and I said I don't think I can do that exactly because I was like I got stuck originally on the fact that Legendary is a cooperative game. My wife hates that, by the way. She hates that the heroic legendary. It's like, hey, we're all heroes, man. We're just on the same side. And this terrible thing I did to you this turn, well, that's just a side effect. And she wants the game to be either like you're really cooperating or
Hmm.
you're really cutting each other's throats. Well, eventually, I just realized, wait a minute, why am I limiting myself? I bet I can come up with a way. And so I had told you guys no. And then months later, let's just fast forward 2 weeks after this particular moment that I'll talk about. I called you up and said, "Hey, I think I can do it." so
Okay.
anyway, but the way I came up with a design, and the design was something I was able to test because you folks have published so many cool legendary sets, a lot of them by Devin. Um,
Hmm.
I set up a game of X-Men heroes and X-Men villains, uh, versus Asgardian heroes and Asgardian villains, and Avengers heroes versus Avengers villains. And I admit that the core systems of this game of how do you give everyone their own purchasing lineup, but everybody fights out of a central single ally deck, or villain deck if it was Marvel. It was all in that initial playtest, and it all worked. Like it worked in the sense that it was obvious that these cards had not been designed for that,
Hmm.
and I can't remember which set it was, but there was one of the particular things that because the heroes and villains have been designed different ways, it was like, oh, that guy's villains are really hard to beat, and that means no, and so anyway, it was like, yeah, everything's a little bit thrown off, but the proof was there,
Hmm.
and because legendary is kind of a language, you've applied it to a lot of IPs, and you can go ahead and say these are the heroes, these are the classes, these are things that matter in this, and I redefined a couple of the classes to make because tech and ranged, although yeah, you could make an argument and say, oh, but what about the dragons?
Hmm.
They could be breathing fire, and it's like, yeah, but there's only a couple things like that. So after redefining blue as skill, like knightly skill, and black as strategy,
Hmm.
um, it was I was able to go ahead and really find ways to describe and show all the characters in Game of Thrones. Well, a bunch of them.
Yeah. Um, that kind of rolls into the next question here. When you're addressing the source material, I mean, Game of Thrones is a very vast world and intricate world. How do you approach that for card design?
One way is that I decided to stick close to the opening of the series. Let's go ahead and face it. Arya becomes somebody very different
Hmm.
over the course of the entire storyline. So Daenerys becomes somebody very different. Jaime Lannister loses a hand. I mean, there's
Hmm.
so much stuff that, like, if the game was pointing at Endgame or midpoint, there would be very different characters. So one way that was easy was to go ahead and say, yeah, this is the opening. This is how people are early on, but also with some hints of what's going to happen. Like
Hmm.
there's particular hit cards in the game that are like, well, that doesn't look like it's probably not from the first season, and maybe not for the second, but it's all hinted at early on, and it's like not that huge a change. So one of the ways, I think your question was, how do you choose? That was a
Yeah.
way to choose. Um, and I would say that we needed four houses
Hmm.
competing. And so the choice of Stark, Lannister, King's Landing, because I don't just want to call it Baratheon, and Dothraki, therefore suggested an awful lot of characters. Um, Now, I think I'm going to go astray from exactly what your question asked, and I'm going to say one of the cool things that I really wanted to accomplish in this
Okay.
first set. I wanted to have more characters on screen for a moment than could necessarily be easily handled by the standard way Legendary goes ahead and parcels out card space.
Hmm.
So I did a couple things. One of them is minor heroes. Um, Daenerys' brother Viserys does not deserve. Lord, does not deserve. Nobody should give that man his own like hero card set. Oh my God,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
no. But I set up minor heroes.
Hmm.
They're cards that replace two of the merchants, the common carrot cards that give you stars, recruiting power. And Viserys can be one of those two cards. And in as a minor hero, Viserys's quote power, he's worth 1 star. Is that if you ever manage to KO him, he goes into your victory pile and scores you a point. So just like the books, just like the
Hmm.
series, you want to kill it. You know, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Joffrey is like the absolutely. I mean, Joffrey. How many people out there really want to play a whole card set or something of heroes that has Joffrey in it? Well, wow. I mean, that's an interesting design challenge. It would just be like here's your abhorrent effect, and it pisses you off as much as the enemy. I don't know, but it's possible. But with Joffrey as a minor hero, um, and here I stole. I stole. I did. Big Trouble Little China had
Hmm.
a card that was called the Jerk, a minor hero, and all it does is like it's the Kurt Russell person, and it says, hey, if your victory pile is empty, +1 fighting. That lasts that long. So
Right.
congratulations, you did it, and now you're done. And so that's Joffrey in this game.
Okay.
You also want to kill him. Now that let me get in characters like Shay, Sansa's and I think I'll come back to Sansa later, but Sansa, I didn't want to give her an entire hero set. There are
Hmm.
other Starks who play much more active roles, but Sansa as a minor hero, yeah, that
And Dance, I think, is a good example that this is. I like to say this is about the first two seasons.
I think so.
So she didn't have that big of a role in the first two seasons, but she has a lot of room to grow.
Oh my
And,
God,
and I
later
think,
on,
yeah.
Sansa should absolutely. It's like a card set focused on later developments. Sansa is great. You're going
Hmm.
to have interesting things to do with her, but okay, so how did I make Sansa interesting as a quote minor hero? She's kind of unique. Um, when you play Sansa without having to trigger anything else, if you play her and then just put her in the discard pile of the opponent to your left, you get 1 victory point and 1 more star recruiting. So poor Sansa. She just gets sent around. No, it's sad for her, but yeah, but everybody. So yeah, it's a unique card. There's nothing else like it, and so it actually people remember it. It's like, oh God, here comes Sansa. Okay, all right, well, I can move her on soon.
And that kind of touches on another unique thing about Legendary Game of Thrones, and that's the points, the little tokens too.
Oh,
So, how'd
right.
you come up with those?
How did I come up with those? Well,
Because
I mean, I think that the core legendary is super efficient um, and uh, logical in using cards that are easily counted and that didn't require any more components. It's like, whereas um, several reasons for adding victory point tokens. One of the biggest ones is that you're playing with a central ally deck. That means that if you're the Starks, you've got some allies. Well, if you're the Lannisters, you might be playing. Oh God, yeah. What's the Hound in the Mountain
yeah, yeah.
as
hmm
an ally set? Well, when the Hound of the Mountain is out in play, and one of the cards from that is out, the your enemies are trying to just KO that, take it to their victory pile. But when you quote, no, it's called fighting. When you fight the Hound of the Mountain, what you do
hmm
is support them. You spend fighting equal to their standard strength, just as if it was an enemy card. And then you choose either you get its victory points or you get to use its fight effect if it has one. Some of them cards don't, so it's an easy decision. And then you move a card one space further on the range spaces towards it goes bow, spear, sword, dagger, claw, which
hmm
is what they're called instead of the city spaces. Now,
Right.
when you support, you need a reward, and you're not taking the card, so you're taking victory point tokens.
Yeah.
Also, it lets the Lannisters screw with everybody else's victory point tokens a
That,
lot.
that's a side effect.
Yeah, it's a side effect. And you want that. You don't want. Okay. In Legendary Marvel or other games,
hmm
can go ahead and, hey, you're stealing a victory point. You're stealing a henchman from that opponent's victory pile. And there are a couple effects in this game. I think they're like all the way up on master strikes on a mastermind that say, hey, your opponents lose a henchman or they take a wound, something like that. Um, but I wanted to have victory flowing and coming from sources other than simply defeating cards, because there's so many narrative elements in Game of Thrones about interesting things that are happening in the court, or
hmm
that it's like, oh well, no, if you manage to take control of the court in that way, and the Baratheon, if the small council is ruling for you, congratulations, you've got victory points. And that's why you need the tokens.
Yeah,
So
and it's really easy to count how many cards you have in your victory pile, and that's a thing. But I think the managing those victory point tokens is really the key to how you play Legendary Game of Thrones compared to the other games. And managing that battlefield and doing everything that you were mentioning is just something that really kind of sets us apart
yep,
from the rest of the stuff.
yep. Although, if you can be the person to clobber all those enemy masterminds, like
But,
their point totals, like, if
oh
you take
yeah,
one of the ones that's like Winterfell or Casterly Rock, which are quote masterminds
uh-huh,
for the Lannisters, Starks and the Lannisters, those are worth a lot.
they are.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
um, what type of things were you really excited about with Game of Thrones to bring in to Legendary?
Okay, well, I actually kind of even covered it already because I
It's a
wanted
little
a
bit.
bunch of interesting characters.
hmm
I wanted to have a touch of the Night's Watch, which is to say, hello, Jon Snow. There's one sad bastard version of you in the uh, a Stark hero thing.
hmm
Winter is coming, um, and then you get your own little card set as a member of the Night's Watch. Um, I originally I had big plans for the White Walkers, and I had things happening with them, but doing justice to that was beyond the scope. I mean, the truth is that having the four houses properly represented and having the battle be about them when
Hmm.
they aren't really cognizant of just how bad things are going to get later, so don't
Oh yeah.
so so I'm excited about Night's Watch and White Walkers eventually, but not here right now. um because it's a cutthroat game, I was excited about all the ways that you absolutely don't want to go ahead and screw around with opponents in the standard legendary setup, but that you really should here. And now, a lot of times I admit I did things that offer choices. You have the choice to either do something that's good and small for yourself. It's nice. It's like, congratulations, you can KO one of your cards, or you can really screw with that opponent.
Hmm.
Now, what you're going to do. So maybe it's this part of the game where you're just going to, yeah, I really need to get rid of another one of my weasels. They need to go away. But, later on, oh my God, they've got a rare card sitting there in their lineup. Bam, Cersei's getting rid of that. So,
What was Cersei's effect at just that
oh my,
you're that you're
well, I think it's, okay. Right now, I'm not looking at the card set.
yeah, good.
There's a card where Cersei, if I think if strategy has been played, she gets to go ahead and either get rid of a card in your hand, a card in your lineup, or a card in an opposing lineup. And it might be that it's actually okay. Here's something fun I wanted to do,
Okay.
and I was excited about doing it. I'm gonna look while I'm talking.
Okay.
I
Actually,
wanted it.
uh,
It's intertwined. It's actually
okay.
it's not Cersei.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's the Jamie Lannister one.
It's Jaime Lannister's rare
Hmm.
card, which
Yeah.
has art I really love of him and Cersei just standing next to each other with their fingers intertwined. And the Jaime Lannister rare has an effect that's like, it's a good fighting card, but also if you play strategy first, Cersei steps in and does something horrible to someone. So, yeah, and I was very excited about that. I was like, young Arya
Hmm.
is not yet the world's kick-ass Arya that you later find. So her hero set has a card that's pretty good. Young Arya, the young wolf, she's kind of badass on that card. But her other card is sneaky and covert, and another card is Unhappy Sisters, which is Sansa's on it, and
Hmm.
Lord, which basically either lets you recruit a master for free or KO a master and get a victor point as a new tutor gets frustrated and leaves. And her rare is Syrio Farrell,
Hmm.
because Arya's not up to fighting like a rare, but Syrio is.
What are some key considerations that you had with designing some card abilities? Because really, that's the
Wow.
core of Legendary, right? Is the different hero sets and the cards.
Yeah, you're right. Um, One thing, of course, was to make sure that the four houses have a different feel to them. So with the Starks, and part of that is just like which classes are like most involved.
Hmm.
Part of that is that Tyrion is going to play like nothing else. Tyrion is going to do things. Okay, well, we're talking. I'm a designer who really looks at story, and then I design from that. I
Hmm.
mean, there are other people who have, hey, I've got a really cool mechanic, and I need to know where it goes. And every once in a while, I'll have a mechanic hanging around that's like, oh, it didn't work for that character I came up with it for, but so it'll work on something. But I really design very strongly from looking at who the character is. So in a weird way, what you asked me is a question that every single card in the game is hugely involved with, and they're all different.
Sure.
And so, uh, I'm going to give an example, a couple examples.
Okay.
Um, Tyrion has got a unique, almost unique thing where he can buy cards from other people's lineups
Hmm.
because Tyrion's always making friends. He's always going ahead and like surprising people who really want to kill him. That maybe he's okay and they actually won't kill him.
Hmm.
So all right. Um,
And that's mostly his rare card, but
but
uh,
there it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That it
Uh,
definitely has that
Jaime Lannister
element
on
to it.
a much more common level. Jaime, cards that attack masterminds only are not unique in Legendary. But wow, did that feel right for Jaime's Kingslayer card.
Sure.
So it's got power. It basically he fights well, and if it's a strong enough card, it had to have a drawback. So you see, Jaime is a little self-destructive. Like cards like Death Wish and the Kingslayer. It's like so you got to choose an opponent to draw a card when you play this. Like it doesn't really hurt you. It's
Hmm.
just that it helps them. And it's very unusual to like have something where you have to choose who to be nice to,
Hmm.
So and I've seen games where Jaime Lannister playing that card kind of gave the win away, And so, but meanwhile, um, if sword mastery is taking the place of what the other game calls conqueror, and that means if there's any ally in that sword space, well then Jaime gets a big bonus that's only usable against masterminds. And I think the
Hmm.
card art is great because it shows him coming up behind with the sword drawn, and it's like okay, um, it that's an example of the mechanics of Legendary already feeling right in a way.
Right.
I was just able to go ahead and draw something in. Um, Here's an example, just like that's silly, but it amused me, and that's actually a lot of these things, right? Sirio Farrell,
Uh-huh.
uh, he he's a rare card. He's not the strongest, but he gets a bonus for every range space that has more than one enemy ally in it. Um, and that's kind of a nod to the fact that with a wooden sword, he fought way too many people at once.
Hmm.
And now, how often is that game state going to happen? It's going to happen sometimes. Can you buy other cards that sometimes make it more likely? Possibly. Although it's a little bit hard to draw around. But in terms of how it feels and how it could like end up having more effects later, that it just amused me and makes me happy. That's what a lot of these are. They're like uh, using. Let me think. What is the King's Carouse? That has a funny name, and I knew that I wanted it to do something, and I knew that you guys toned me down when I was like in terms of what I was calling it, so it became much more. It became PG.
Okay.
Um, uh, let's see, and I think it's. Oh, okay. So that's a Robert. It was a lot of fun to design Robert Baratheon cards because he's sort of not. He doesn't do a whole lot,
Right.
except get gored by a wild boar and drink. The, but I was able to do a card called Hero That Was, which is a really powerful. Like it's
Hmm.
from that time he told the story about smashing somebody's chest in with a mace. Um, and then the Carouse card, which is let me see here. Where are you, Robert Baratheon? La 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 la. An ally at sword range or closer captures a bystander, then KO a card in your hand or discard pile that provides attack or KO this card. So, my thought is this is called the King's Carouse, and it shows him drinking. So he's either driving away sort of warriors who would sort of care for him, but they just can't handle, yeah, get out of here, you
Hmm.
louse. Or eventually, because it is providing recruit points. Eventually, when you don't want recruit points, it takes care of itself. And so just like the king did, more or less.
you already touched up on this a little bit, but the player versus player format. This is just strictly a 2 to 4 player game,
Yep.
100% PvP. There's no um, allying unless you have little deals at the table.
Yeah.
Uh, so
I haven't seen that much.
yeah, how do you feel about this? What was how do you kind of
Well,
address all this and come
I
about
mean,
this?
ironically, creating a cutthroat version of Legendary is good for my domestic harmony because when we first, I mean, I've been playing Legendary a long time, right? Like when
Hmm.
Devin was first playtesting, Lisa and I were lucky enough to be around. He lived here in Seattle. We played a lot. But so Lisa loves the game and always has. I, okay, I'm a terrible person when it comes to the diplomatic elements of making other people think that I'm not the problem. um, like I noticed that if I play a game online with people, I'm not that necessarily as good at it as I should be. But if I play a game that involves multiplayer dynamics in person, I do a hell of a lot better than I should. And it really pisses Lisa off. She's like, do not listen to him. Take him out. Take him out. So she just, in my household, the whole thing, the competitive cooperative model of Legendary is something I kind of enjoy. But, but I've had to go ahead and just say out loud in my own home, I will never use a hero card when I have a choice of being penalizing to other players or helping myself. I will never penalize the other players. I just won't. And I have to do that. I have to do that because I'm way too annoying otherwise. Now, therefore, this game makes no bones about it. Like you're intended, you can't play the card without screwing up someone else's life, and that's fine. The thing that the model that's, oh, you're all on the same side cooperating to defeat villains, but one of you is going to win and the rest are going to lose. That's what my partner has trouble with. So funny thing is, I was utterly incentivized to go ahead and create this game. I think to be like, oh yeah, totally. And in order to tell the story, that's the kind of system this game requires. I mean, Game of Thrones is not for the faint. And the I don't know, the quote that Cersei gives, in the Game of Thrones,
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
don't it,
you win or you die. Yeah,
yeah, you win or you
that's
die. And so this is not, the one time a card lets you do something nice for somebody, that's a penalty. And you have to
mhm.
choose carefully how to apply that penalty because you don't want to help somebody for real. And yeah, so I don't know, Case. There's not much more to say about it except that the goal is hopefully people will play the game and say, oh yeah, that feels like the Lannisters screwing with somebody,
Hmm.
or that feels what the small council might do. Oh, technically we're fine, but unfortunately for you. Um, I think that the Dothraki are a faction that really comes into its own later, like when it gets new allies and has, um, but they're still like with young dragons and Jorah Mormont being a kick-ass knight who's in love with the Khaleesi, and of course we get more Khal Drogo in this set than we get in the series.
It's very true. Very true.
And that was sort of opportunistic. That was like, I was thinking to myself, look, if I'm really lucky, there'll be another set of this someday. It will not include Khal Drogo. He's not gonna make it. He doesn't make it very long. So if there, here he is. Combat stats. Take to send him against your enemies. So
All right. So now a little bit more fun here. If the Game of Thrones, you have all these great houses and all these you know, renowned warriors. Everyone has their favorites. Everyone has their stuff. What house would you most identify with? Um,
ah, okay. There's certain IPs. This is really easy.
uh-huh.
For the Game of Thrones, the house I would identify with, I'm gonna have to switch tracks, and I'm gonna have to say this. If I'm in the Game of Thrones world and I'm lucky, I'm a maester
Uh-huh.
who gets assigned, and I don't think I get a choice about who I got assigned to. Now, if I'm unlucky, I'm either a peasant or maybe a maester with a smart mouth, and I say the wrong things and I get sent to the wall. And I wear the black. That's unlucky. I mean, because I can't with a straight face say, yes, I'm definitely a Stark when winter is coming. Or, yeah, I'm a
Yeah. Yeah.
bastard and the Lannisters are okay with me, and then Baratheon, well, who are the Baratheons? But, Joffrey is one of them. So, wow. Anyway, I'm just laughing about it a little bit. I don't
Sure.
know that, yeah. So that's my answer.
So, let's switch gears a little bit. Something I like to do whenever I talk Game of Thrones is I ask people who their three favorite uh, characters are. And I say three because almost everyone says Tyrion, almost everyone says Arya. So it's that third one
All
that's the
right.
most interesting.
I may be a little different because
Well,
you're right about Tyrion.
hmm
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the books, I think I liked Jon Snow better.
Okay.
I think the weird thing is that once my mental picture of him is gone and I'm watching him on screen, I do not like Jon Snow that much. Jon Snow, it's like he's okay, but
Sure.
no, he's definitely not one of my favorites. Whereas with the books, I would have said, yeah, Jon Snow. Um, uh, Arya's kind of a monster. I mean, great. She's, quote, a righteous monster, is she? She's kind of a monster. I mean, so I would actually like Arya and Brienne.
Okay. Yeah.
Close. And I'm gonna say Brienne, who is
Sure.
not a monster
No.
and has
Yeah.
dealt with some shit, and does not put Mission Impossible faces on and that kill people all the. So anyway, and Syrio Farrell.
Okay. Yeah.
I love his whole scene, and the fact is he's the guy who starts Arya out.
Uh-huh.
Like without him, she doesn't get to have Needle and learn what to do at all. So yeah, I think that's also an early answer, like Syrio Farrell.
Sure.
But, yeah, sure, Syrio.
Yeah. Someone we wish we had a little bit more background and insight
Well,
on.
background or foreground, because I don't
Yeah.
think he's coming back. But anyway,
No. But all right. So yeah. Anything else you'd like to let people know about with the Game of Thrones Legendary?
wow. I've talked an awful lot, so I think I can let people. I can let people. If you like standard legendary, the good news is this plays a lot like it. It just has ways of seeing to it that you're not cooperating and that you are in fact, you're able to do deck building, without being too messed up. But some of the things that happen to thwart you at deck building are connected to the game engine, not to other players.
Right.
I think that was kind of necessary, in fact. So, yep.
Right. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Rob Heinsoo, and look forward to
That was a lot
playing
of fun.
Game of Thrones Legendary. Right.
Good.
Thank you.